And since he wasn't bringing him, I began to subtly, maybe even subconsciously, believe that he either didn't care or that he couldn't do anything about it. He provided for me in plenty of ways, but not in the way that I thought I needed to be happy. I saw him giving happiness to others, but had a hard time believing that he would do the same for me. Throughout the years, I had several relationships, and when someone was in my life, I was relatively happy. But when the relationship was ended, I frantically searched for the next person. I was scared to be alone. I didn't want to feel lonely. Without someone in my life, I felt like a tumbleweed rolling around in the desert, not really belonging anywhere. So this all convinced me that I needed someone in my life. After all, it says in the Bible, it's not good for man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him. This verse confirmed it to me that even I needed a spouse. I always thought it was funny. I always thought it was funny when the married friend would say to me, "You just have to be happy with just yourself." I thought, sure they'd say that. They weren't alone. But I had fallen into a faulty way of thinking. Satan had deceived me. In fact, this deception took control of my behavior. This is true the day that I got locked in a garage. And not just any garage, but the garage of my boyfriend's neighbor. How did it happen? Well, it was Mother's Day, and I wanted to be with my boyfriend. I thought it was my right to be with him. It was Mother's Day after all. But he said to wait until he called, and then I could come over. Well, that day didn't start off too special. I had to get up and go to the store to get something to make for breakfast. Yes, I had to make my own breakfast. Can you believe it? Well, on the way home from the store, my car had a flat tire. And it was not how I wanted to be spending Mother's Day waiting for the auto club to come out and fix my tire. All day I sat there waiting, thinking how he should be there and me making it special. I obsessed over how he should be there, and the only thing that was on my mind was my happiness. As I patiently, not so patiently, waited for him to call, I watched the clock. Tick, tock, tick, tock. I grew more and more irritated. I wanted to be with him that day. I should be there, not his ex-wife. You see, his ex-wife lived 3 hours away, and to save on gas, she spent every other weekend with him. But today, that day was Mother's Day, and I wanted to be there. So about 3 o'clock, I just had it. I was going to go over and see him, whether she was there or not. So as I drove over, I started getting nervous. I didn't know I didn't want to irritate him. Then what kind of special day would I have? But I went there anyways, and I started climbing up the stairs nervously. And when I got to the top, I could hear voices on the other side. And I thought, they're about to come out. And fear grabbed hold of me, and I ran, and I'm looking for a place to hide. I run into this garage, right there, and go and hide behind a box, and I turn, and I see the garage door coming down. It was too late to run out. I looked at the emergency cord, and it was broken, and I thought, here I am, trapped in a small, dark, hot, it was Palm Springs, garage. I thought, what was going to happen? I sat there sweating and frightened, not knowing what was going to happen. And I thought, where had the neighbors gone? And more importantly, when were they coming back? The unknown was terrifying. And as I contemplated how I got into this mess, the door opened. I was free at last. Guess what? There, in front of the door, was my boyfriend saying goodbye to his ex-wife and kids. The look on his face is one I soon will not forget. Now, some of my married friends would say, attest, that finding Prince Charming doesn't bring lasting happiness. Some of my friends have said that I wish he would just do this. I wish she would spend some time with me in the evenings. I wish she would listen to me. I wish she would do that. I wish she... It seems like they're even fighting for Charlotte and nothing to walk through. Always will say something. Each of us has expectations of our loved ones. And when they don't meet those expectations, it's possible that we can grow resentful. And the reason what I'm asking for is, she and her husband and 2 boys had to leave the town of Bethlehem. It wouldn't be easy to leave everything she ever knew behind and to travel to Moab. Moab was the place where Lot had lived once he left Abraham. It was once home to the city of Sodom before its destruction. It was indeed a wicked place. The Moabites had not found favor with God since they did not welcome Israel when they came out of Egypt. Moab was indeed a place where evilness ran rampant. And now Naomi had to leave her little town of Bethlehem, which held on to the purity of its ancestral faith, and go to this place where they did not know her God. Moab was indeed a scary place to be going to. Yet, in her heart, Naomi knew everything would be okay. They'd get through this tough time, and her husband and 2 boys, they'd soon return home. She was sure of it. But that's not what happened. After getting to Moab, her husband dies. She was left crushed. Here she is in a place that she didn't even know. And now her husband dies? How much more could she endure? But she gets through it. For at least she still had her 2 boys. And time began to pass, and the boys got married. Things were looking up. And she thought, your heart was hopeful, and she thought, they're going to have grandkids, and sounds of laughter be running around, and things, she was hopeful. But that's not what happened. Both of her sons died. And she was left devastated. Can you picture the despair that she must have felt? I could hear her crying out, why? Why, Lord? Her heart, her dreams were shattered, and her heart grew bitter. Time finally came when she heard that Jehovah had visited his people and brought them bread, so she decided to go home. As was the custom, her daughter-in-law started the trip with her. And when she deemed that they had fulfilled their obligation, she told them to go home. I could hear her saying, go home to Moab. Your chances of happiness are better in Moab than they are with me. And so she kissed one of her daughter-in-laws goodbye, but Ruth begged to stay. Why? Why would Ruth want to stay? Well, she was happy that she was going. She didn't want to be alone, so she agreed to let Ruth go with her. And together they traveled to Bethlehem. When they arrived at Bethlehem, Naomi's friends came out to greet her. But Naomi quickly let her know not to call her pleasant. Not to call her Naomi, which means pleasant, but to call her Mara, which means bitter. She was miserable, and she was in no mood for a welcome home party. She said, I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Her happiness had been taken away, replaced by hopelessness. Well, like Naomi, I had begun to lose hope. The Lord wasn't bringing my Prince Charming. I had several relationships, but they had all left me heartbroken. Then, one day, I found him. I found my true Prince Charming. We dated for about a year and a half, and I just knew he was the one. He was a handsome man, and more importantly, the connection between us was intense. I was finally going to have the marriage that I so anxiously pursued. We got married. Well, it turned out to be a shaky marriage. But I was glad to be married. Then, one day, he came into the bedroom. He sat down on the bed next to me and said, "I have a U-Haul in our driveway, and I'm moving out." The trains came crushing down around me. It was a struggle just to breathe. I didn't know what I was going to do. I fell into a pit of despair, not knowing what to do. A few weeks after he moved out, I decided to run as far away from the pain as I could. I grabbed some clothes and threw them in the car and started driving north. I didn't know where I was going to go, but I just had to be away from the pain. As I drove north, I listened to CDs of Philippians and Ephesians and some Christian music. And as I drove, his love had started to sink into a place that I had never experienced before. While I was there in my motel room in Red Bluff, California, I read the book of Hosea. In it, I heard the Lord say, "I will make you my wife forever." Next one, Steve. "I will make you my wife forever, showing you righteousness and justice, unfailing love and compassion. I will make you faithful and make you mine, and you will finally know me as the Lord." The words echoed within me. He would be faithful. My husband had not been faithful, but the Lord promised to be faithful, and I believed him. I also saw at what lengths the Lord pursues me. He pursues me with greater love than any man ever had. In Song of Songs, I heard him say, "Your love delights me, my treasure, my bride. Your love is better than wine, your perfume more fragrant than spices." In Isaiah, he said to me, "As a bridegroom rejoices over his bride, so will God rejoice over you." He rejoices over me, and he rejoices over you. There, in Red Bluff, California, I found my true Prince Charming, Jesus. Jesus. It wasn't until his love had penetrated deep into my heart, and as I desired to become one with me, that I could finally let go of all my pursuing. You see, holding on to the belief that finding Prince Charming would bring me lasting happiness had separated me from becoming one with him. See, when someone says that they love you, you expect them to do all that they can to see that you're happy. Yet I didn't see God doing what he could to bring me happiness. While I was holding on to my desire, I thought the Lord should support them. And when he didn't, my trust in him diminished, and I felt alone and unloved. You see, when someone says, as long as I didn't see him give me what I thought I needed for happiness, I couldn't grasp how deep his love for me is. Each of us has two options. We can pursue our dreams and desires, believing they will bring us everything we want out of life, or we can let go and surrender them and believe that he will bring us joy and peace beyond our imagination. The Lord used the painful experience of my husband walking out to teach me that all my pursuing was useless. There was nothing that I could do or have that was going to bring me true happiness. There was nothing left for me to do but to let go. Once I stopped pursuing, he opened my eyes, and I could see how deeply he loves me and how he wanted to be there. And I could surrender all to him. Like Paul, I realized everything